basically, please let's start.
Ja.
Semi-official.
Bezahlt, genau.
So,
Good morning.
So Al Hassan is my name.
Okay. Hi.
Yes, so I'm going to give you a brief history
Okay.
of the forts.
Okay.
But before then, we need to know that the Europeans, particularly the Portuguese, were the first to arrive on the shores of Gold Coast
Okay.
in 1471.
Okay.
And when they arrived, the first structure they put up on the entire African soil was the Elmina Castle
Okay.
in 1482
Okay.
to facilitate gold and slave trade.
Okay.
So, and the reason why the Portuguese was in Africa was as a result of one man called Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa was a king in the Mali Empire,
Okay.
and this Mansa Musa controlled the monopoly of the gold producing region in the
Okay.
Gold Coast.
Okay.
So Mansa Musa embarked on a pilgrimage
Okay.
to Saudi Arabia, Hajj,
Okay.
on a camel's back.
Okay.
So he took along with him 80,000 slaves,
Wow.
and these slaves were dressed in a very rich silk clothing. And at that time, for a slave to dress in a very rich silk clothing, it means that the owner was extremely rich. So Mansa Musa, when he got to Cairo, the capital of Egypt, he gave out gold. So much so he took along with him about 50 ounces of gold, just to give to the needy and the poor on his way to Mecca. So when he got to Cairo, he gave out so much gold so that the price of gold dropped. The value of gold was diluted as a result of Mansa Musa. So he continued to the Arabian Peninsula. And when he got to the Arabian world, that is Mecca, the Arab scholars tried to compare Mansa Musa as a king to the rest of African rulers. And they described Mansa Musa in 5 short sentences. That he was the most powerful, the most fortunate, the most feared by his enemies, and the most able to do good to those around him. So these 5 descriptions of Mansa Musa, the Arab scholars started writing it in pamphlets and in books, so it went viral. So the quest by the West, particularly the Portuguese, to find out the source of the richest man in Africa,
Okay.
Mansa Musa led the Portuguese from Portugal to Africa.
Okay.
So I just started from the genesis,
Yeah.
why they came from Africa.
Yeah.
So when they came, they realized that we had abundance of gold. Please, you can.
You want to give us gold?
We had abundance of gold. So
Okay.
when they discovered it, that they came and they lived along the coast
Okay.
of West Africa.
Okay.
Good. And the arrival of the Europeans led to the establishment of fortifications dotted along the various coasts in West Africa
Okay.
to facilitate gold and slave trade.
Okay.
So they were designed for 2 main purposes:
Okay.
for trade and also for defensive, commercial and defensive.
Okay.
So the defensive nature had to do with the residency. You know, some of them, the residence in the Gold Coast. So forts and castles where they reside, we used to have what we call cannons as weapons. So when they came, and when it was a storage, that is for the storage of slaves, then they could also have weapons as well as military around it. So with time, this force, the original, they have outlived their original designs and functions. Today is a place of a great remembrance and value. So I'm going to take a walk with you slightly so that we go from here and then through to the museum. So please.
Okay.
So the Dutch built this Ussher fort. The Ussher fort was built by the Dutch in 1649 as Fort Cricket.
Okay.
Named after a town in Dutch. The Dutch named the fort after one of its towns. And the Cricket is a French word which means broken hearts. Yes. So the Dutch later transferred this fort to the British. The British fought with the Dutch, and there was a British administrator by name James Henry Fort Ussher. So this administrator of the British name was later borne by the fort, Ussher Fort.
Okay.
Because he was the main mediator of transfer of territories between the Dutch and the British. So he gave his name to the fort, which is the Ussher. So in this fort served as prison. It served initially as slaves storage.
Okay.
And with time it was handed over to the government of Ghana by the British, and the government used it as a prisons. So when you look at the political prison, we have a place for the political prisoners.
Okay.
And where we currently is a political prison, where the first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and the rest of the big six were once in prison here.
Okay.
Then transferred to the James Fort.
Okay.
And then later, J.J. Wallace was also in prison here when he attempted the first coup to overthrow Machamp.
Okay.
He was arrested. He couldn't succeed in the coup, so he was arrested. This was the very room he was brought into, and then the military aided with the prison officers, so he was able to escape.
Wow.
Through the wall. We'll go there and you have a look at where Rolex escaped. So when he escaped, the very day he escaped, the following day he did another coup and succeeded. So when he succeeded, he took over and then later gave to Dr. Ila Limam to rule Ghana. So with the main aim that Dr. Ila Limam should do well. If not, if the circumstances that led to him taking over the reins of the country comes again, he will have to put Ila Limam aside and take over. So Ila Limam was not able to live up to the expected. So within a space of 2 years, he took another coup. So he himself alone had 3 coups in Ghana.
That's
so
Rawlings.
Rawlings.
Okay.
And then later he handed over and brought democracy. So when he brought democracy, then he also contested as a presidential ticket of the NDC.
Okay.
Won for 2 consecutive times.
Wow.
And then also stepped down to the late former president, Pantamios, who also continued as president. To John and then Carrington. So even Kufuor was also once prison here.
Okay.
So this was a political prison. We have outside prison where we have the prison A and prison B. So we'll get there.
Okay.
So let's take a walk. So that the prisoners were being given some kind of skills, carpentry, tailoring, and then the government will buy materials for them to sew so that they will portray the materials outside. So, buyers will come and buy, and the proceeds generated from it were being used to feed the prisoners.
Okay.
So we have a condemned prison where some criminals were being put there and they were executed. We'll get there. But before then, let's have a look at the wall where Rollins escaped.
Okay.
So this was a place where the former President Rollins escaped through, but you can see the building is in two types.
Okay.
The original one, and then the chief prison officers ordered that
They raised it
another
up.
wall should be built on the older one in order to curb escapes. So this was a very place where Rollins escaped. And then Ghana, we're practicing three religion. We
Okay.
have the indigenous traditional African religion,
Okay.
where they pour libation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Africa, we pay very much cognizance to the ancestors.
Yeah.
The
Sure.
traditional religion has to do with the ancestors, and then the Islamic faith and the Christian faith. With the traditional religion, we believe in the spirit of the dead with their influence on the living. We believe that even though our ancestors are dead and gone, but spiritually they comes around to provide guidance and protection to the living. So they occupies a very important place in rituals, such as pouring of libation. I hope you know how to pour libation. You know how to pour libation?
So this libation like pouring.
You just put water.
And you make
in
pronouncements, yeah?
and
Yeah.
liquor.
Yeah, liquor, yeah. It
And
could
then
be snap or even
and
anything like
then
that.
you sprinkle it on the ground, then you chant the names of the
Yeah,
ancestors.
exactly.
When you do that, you invoke
Invoke,
their
yeah,
spirit,
yeah.
come into the midst of the living, provide guidance and protection. So the ancestors are the senior members of every family, only
Okay.
separated from the living by death.
That.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So this is the tree. So when you look at the indigenous traditional African religion, this was a prevalent religion until the Christian faith and Islamic faith were introduced to Africa.
Okay.
So when you look at these three main religions, they have intermediaries.
Yeah.
So Christians uses Jesus Christ as an intermediary between man and God. Muslims uses Muhammad as an intermediary between man and God. Traditional religion uses the lesser gods or the ancestors as an intermediary. So please. So when you come here, this is a chapel where Christians were not allowed. Christian images were being allowed to practice their religion. Yeah. They would invite us, particularly on Sundays, to come and pray to them. There was a roof. Yes, there was a roof. And then next to it, where Muslims were also being allowed to practice their religion. And this is the roof. But this is the cell. Please don't go inside. This is the cell A, and we have the cell B. The cell A is to house female slaves. We equally had female slaves and male slaves.
Okay.
So the governor could allow the security agencies to open the female slaves so that he will look through them and pick one or two that is going to have an affair with. And that was the genesis of half castes and mulattoes in the world system. White meeting the black slaves. And then the process became black and white mixed together. So this said as prison or inmate cell. Yes, this was for the males.
Okay.
And the female one is deteriorated.
Okay.
So when the Dutch transferred the forts to the British, the British reconstructed. The Dutch fort was shattered with an earthquake. So in 1868, the Dutch handed over the fort. the British buy all the forts when in 1871, the British declared Ghana as a colony. So this was rebuilt by the British.
Oh, okay.
So you can see with here, slaves were numbering up to 50. And you could see how would they lie? They could not have access to lie. And when it was changed from prison, from slave prison, slave camp, it was later changed to prison.
Okay.
This was the main state prison.
Wow.
So you could see, but with a political prison, they could put about 10 people there, and they could have space.
That one was premium prison.
Yes.
Okay.
Premium prison. Okay, so please let's come. Let's take a walk to the condemned prison.
But how long was like the slavery still going on in this prison?
Slavery, this particular slavery, when we talk of slavery, it was characterized with rivalry between and among the European forces, such as the Portuguese, the Dutch, the Danes, and the British. So each of these were trying to ascertain monopoly of the slave trade activities. But you know that the Portuguese came first, the Dutch later fought with the Portuguese, bombarded the Elmina castle, which was built first. The Dutch took over. And then that was when in Accra, this was built in 1659. And then last to have had the possession of this forts and castle before handed it over to the government of Ghana was the British. So slavery actually took over 400 plus years. Marginalized or a property. So awaiting the arrival of the ships, they will be stored here. So when the ships arrive, they march them to the boats will then take them to the main ship, and then they'll be taken to the South America, North America, Caribbean, Europe, and other parts of the world. So this is the second structure of the Dutch. So please,
I think this fort looks finer than the other one.
Oh yeah.
the James Fort.
Yes. And it's more spacious, and not like I want to be a prisoner, but
You've been to the James Fort?
yes, and this place is area.
Yeah, you have more rooms, you are more separate.
Yes, in this Ussher fort, yeah. So
The James Fort is actually close to the public because the place has deteriorated.
okay,
And for the fear of the lives of the tourists, we close it.
okay.
So it's not open to the tourists. You've gone there, you enter.
And now we
Somebody attended to you.
That's where we started. Like we started from Ussher Fort, but like
we didn't went, no.
And then you should be in here. When they execute you, they dump the body in here. So it was full of blood, but the cleaners worked on it, and you can still see the stains.
sometimes whenever we get here, we share a lot of short break together.
Yes.
Because a lot of souls have to go down here. We have no idea.
How many was like in here being executed like at the same time?
Oh, it could be 10.
Hmm.
You could execute 10 in a
But
day.
they have like a seat and
So
then they put
Rollins was about to be executed the following day when he
You
escaped.
escaped.
He took another call on the following day. Went to the GBC, Ghana Broadcasting, and announced the ticket he ruled for some time and then handed it. If he had delayed, by now he would have been.
I think he was loved. Yeah.
He was
in
was
love.
loved by the
But
people.
yeah, because for him
goods, the prices of goods and services were skyrocketing.
Okay.
And people were hoarding the goods.
Yeah.
He said, no, this cannot happen.
Okay.
Under his watch, as a young military man, he stood up, fought for the people, and the people realized that this man was fighting not for his
himself.
personal interest,
Yeah.
but for the masses.
Oh, okay.
So they developed interest in him.
Yeah.
So that was why he eventually stood as
Contested.
an elected and then
Yeah.
he won.
Yeah.
If the constitution stipulates that you cannot stand as a president for 2 terms.
Yeah.
If not that, Rollins would have continued being the president.
Yeah.
The
And
people
aside
have
that,
all of
he's actually a good person, because if not, he would take advantage of the love and want to continue to become president, like what is happening now in some countries.
In some countries.
Yeah. So
You don't mention the name.
no, I don't mention any country's name.
You say all over the news.
So we
I think maybe some.
Huh?
please,
A
let's
selfie
go.
fed
This
down
was
there.
the main entrance.
Okay. Okay.
And then this was the main entrance where the slaves were being brought in,
Okay.
and then they would have to open the security, highly security
Secure.
at the gate.
Okay.
Yes, so we're going to take a walk to the museum.